Hi, my name is Judy and I'm the City Stitcher and welcome to my Flosstube channel. Today is Sunday, April the 16th. We are halfway through the month of April and the weather here has been, for the most part, lovely this past week. Little snow overnight on, I want to say Wednesday night, Thursday night. Didn't stick around, certainly didn't, like the pavement cleared off really, pavement, sidewalks, driveways cleared off all very quickly. It stayed on, you know, my recycling and organic recycling bins that were out. Came out and went, ooh, there's a dusting on those. But for the most part, it's been pretty nice. Yesterday was a glorious sunshiny day after stitching at the library and running a few errands. Came home, came into the glorious sunroom to stitch and looked at my thermometer that I keep out here, and it was 25 degrees Celsius in the sunroom with no heater or anything going on, just, you know, that glorious sunshine heating up the room. So it was wonderful. Today the high temperature is about the same, so hang on, let's see if I can do math in my head. So it's about, the high today is about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, so 16 degrees Celsius, maybe 68, 69, anyway, somewhere between 68 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 16 degrees Celsius. But it has been, so it was a little bit overcast this morning, and then it got nice just after lunch and was sunshiny, so I went, the sunroom's going to be nice, and the temperature here is just perfectly pleasant, but it's starting to cloud over. So we'll see. I don't have the light on just yet, but depending on how quickly it clouds over, I may need to stop and turn on my ring light. But yeah, so it's been a perfectly lovely day. With the weather getting warmer, I was having a conversation with my dad this week and just kind of laughed because I was, the snow in their yard is, they have more snow than I do. It's a little deeper than mine, and they have a bigger yard. So I was chatting with him and said, how's the snow going? And he came up with a sentence that people where I live will laugh at and recognize, and if you don't live in a snowy climate, you may not understand this sentence. And so he said, yeah, it's going really well. The shoveling the lawn is certainly making progress. And I laughed and went, oh yeah, okay. I'm not bothering to shovel my lawn. It'll be fine on its own. He's shoveling his lawn. It's really just moving the snow around, so like on the edges, sort of bringing it out more into an area that gets more sunlight, so it melts faster. So he's been shoveling the lawn to try to help get the snow melting on their yard. I made that comment at stitching at the library yesterday, and someone else there was like, oh yeah, no, my husband is shoveling the lawn too. I was like going, and somebody else there also said, oh yeah, no, I totally understand that sentence. And I went, so clearly people here understand that shoveling the lawn is an activity. Yeah, if you don't live somewhere that gets a lot of snow, shoveling the lawn may just sound completely ridiculous, but it's a thing. Anyway, yeah. Yesterday, just walking into the sunroom when I got home and just going, oh man, this is just like, we're at the beginning of sunroom season. We have not hit Slurpee season yet. We're not there yet. Sunroom season has started. I'm not necessarily spending a lot of my evenings here yet because the overnight temperatures are still getting down close to 0 degrees Celsius, so just right around freezing. So it can still chill off here in the evenings, but yes, spring is coming, which means summer's not far away. I know there are lots of people who are not fans of summer and heat, but that's my, man, summer and Christmas, those are my seasons, man. Love those. Okay, I'm just looking at this going, I feel like it's going to get dark, so why don't we turn the light on see if we can't. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, just in case. All right, let's talk about comments from last week. So thank you for the lovely comments on the spring bell pull finish, and those of you who were very happy to see Jerusalem coming out. I feel like there was something else. Oh yeah, and somebody made a comment about the outfit yesterday. Yes, it is a dress. I think it's a lovely dress for springtime, but I always laugh because I was wearing it last Sunday and had a bit of a chuckle going like, oh yeah, when I'm sitting down in the chair, so you get to see a little bit of the pink flowers, but there are more pink flowers as you go down the dress, and sort of a white pattern at the bottom that kind of looks fence-ish. So it's supposed to kind of look like pink tulips with this white fence against a navy background. So, yes, it's yes, I was feeling springy last week. I was like, ooh, let's wear this one. So, yes. Anyway, so thank you for that. Yes, I quite like it. Yes, you didn't see the whole thing. It's much nicer when you get to see all of it put together, but thank you for the nice comments. And then I did have a question from someone about MarkupRxP. They were experiencing some challenges getting a pattern into MarkupRxP, and I totally know where you're coming from. Because the question was, you know, how do you get a pattern like the Taya Governor Jerusalem into MarkupRxP, right? So you're clearly working from a paper pattern, and the paper is too large to fit their home scanner. So this is, so just under 11 by 17, because this is a European size, so whatever the 11 by 17 equivalent is in European sizes of paper. So this is the size of paper that the Thea Gouverneur pattern fits on. And they said, it's too big to fit on my home scanner, which is the same case with me. It's too big to fit on my home scanner. And for a pattern of that level of detail, you want to have a good scanner. And certainly any of the scanning apps that you can get for your devices, whether it's a tablet or your phone, or, you know, like taking a picture and trying to get in it, it's not going to give you enough detail for a pattern of this size and this level of detail. And so she's like, advice, what should I do? So there are a couple of options. So one, if you have someone in your family or one of your neighbors, usually I find that office scanners, not surprisingly, can handle bigger paper and are of usually pretty good quality. So one of the options is if you have someone within your sphere that has access to an office scanner that you can sort of say, hey, can you take this in and scan this in for me? That's one of the options. One of the options for me, if you know, if I'm trying to do it on a weekend, I'm trying to get my life organized on a weekend. Anybody familiar with that concept? And you're not in the office. The option that I use is my local library. So I have a library card, and so I can just run to my nearest library and use their photocopiers to scan in my pattern. And in fact, at one of the stitching at the libraries, we had someone, they had MarkupRxP, and they're like, how would you get, I think they were working on a Jeanette Douglas pattern. They're like, you know, but I've got this paper pattern, how would you get it in? And so I just ran out of the room around the corner and scanned it in and emailed it to her so that she could load it up into MarkupRxP when she got home, you know, at her leisure. But yeah, so if you've, so those are my two suggestions for that, because yes, it does not fit on my home scanner at all. And the camera app, like I say, for a pattern of that complexity, the camera scanners are not going to cut it to get it into MarkupRxP. The other thing, when you're if you're bringing something like a Thea Gouverneur into MarkupRxP, the other thing that I discovered, so I've brought it into MarkupRxP twice, is when you are bringing it into MarkupRxP, there is an option to bring it in at an enhanced level. So it takes longer to load, it takes longer to scan, but again, for my Thea Gouverneur, bringing it in, so I didn't scan it, I didn't have to scan it in twice. I brought it into MarkupRxP a second time using that enhanced feature, and that it really did enhance the level of finding the symbols more accurately. So unlike when you're starting with electronic patterns that are sort of already set up for, whether it's Pattern Keeper, they usually work really well in MarkupRxP as well. When you're coming in from a paper copy, you don't necessarily get 100% accuracy in your symbols. So you still need to do some checking, but the enhanced version made it far easier. And I will put and I found out about this enhanced feature either through the Facebook group, or they had something very specifically about it on their YouTube channel. I think they had a video about it. So I will put a link. I'm pretty sure that there was a YouTube video that on their channel, they had a YouTube video about it. So I will look that up, and I will put a link directly to that particular video so you can see how to work the enhanced feature. If you're interested in MarkupRxP, don't forget you can always go to the MarkupRxP channel here on YouTube and sort of watch their videos about what they're doing and features that they've got and how to work the program. Just to, you know, it's like any new program, right? Any new program that's new to you at the beginning, you're like, how do I do this? How do I make this work better? Like, is this really going to do what I need it to do? And the more that you use it, the more familiar you get, the speedier you get, the more comfortable you get. It was interesting at stitching at the library, because we had someone new who came to join us. So Verdal, it was lovely to meet you and stitch with you. And so we were talking about MarkupRxP because, of course, Cheryl, the Happy Hand from Happy Handcraft Studio, was there. And she and I are big MarkupRxP people. we are heavy users of that. I think one of my comments was like, I think I've got to the point where I'm not sure I know how to properly read a pattern anymore if it doesn't show up on my tablet with the symbols, you know, lit up for me. Not sure I know what to do. Sorry, Flosstube itchy nose. Anyway, so we were sort of, you know, so we were showing MarkupRxP, and she, you know, was bringing something in. She's like, this is really weird. It's not working. This is odd. I don't know why this is. And I was like, oh no, I know why that is. So even there, like I got to show Cheryl a couple of things that she wasn't aware of. And she's like, look at, okay. So we did a couple of things, and boom, like she brought in a pattern and had it sized correctly and had all the grid lines match up relatively easily, just as we were sitting there at the library. Little fussing at the beginning, but you know, we got it sorted out, you know, I would say easily within 5 minutes. So I don't think that's a bad amount of time to get a pattern into MarkupRxP. It was a smaller pattern, but it was really great to have something where you're like, ooh, there you go. And, you know, we all learned something, so that was great. So those are my suggestions for you for the scanning issue. So I hope you've got access to something like that to help. Yes. The other option is you can, so the other option is to take it to somewhere like Staples. The Staples by me, you can take things in to scan them in. There are some Staples that if you take a pattern in to them and say, can you just scan this in for me? There are some Staples people who will refuse to do it because they will assume that you're trying to do copyright infringement. And not every, I know that there are some patterns that explicitly state on the pattern that you are allowed to make a working copy for yourself, you know, etc., etc. So depending on your particular Staples or Staples Office Depot, something like that, and sometimes even the person you get, they may be willing to do that, they may not. The Staples by me, I can just go to the photocopier myself and scan stuff in. Again, I don't remember if you have to pay for that. You probably have to pay some small fee for that, which is why, of course, the library that I go to is actually, you know, about a block away on the same road. So I go to the library where it is free, and they have, you know, a good quality scanner that can handle, you know, large sizes. So if I was trying to scan in a big Mirabilia, you know, because those ones come in like the giant sizes, same thing. I would take it either to the office or to the library to scan it in. Sometimes when you're trying to do it at the office, people look at you very oddly and depending on things. So sometimes it's just easier to go, I'm going to go to the library on the weekend and do some scanning and get that taken care of. So hope that helps. I hope you can get your pattern into MarkupRxP because like I say, I really have become a heavy user of MarkupRxP, and it has absolutely changed my stitching life. So hope that helps. All right, with that, let's get in. Oh, before we get into stitching, I just wanted to tell one other story. I told it at the library. If you watched last week's video, you knew that I was distracted a couple of times. The ball came over, and then the second time I was like, another ball? Anyway, so I, you know, video was uploading. I was cleaning up the sunroom of the stuff, and kind of went, nobody came to fetch the ball. So while I'm here, I was just going to go out into the backyard and throw the balls back over into the other yard. So I got over there, and you know, ball number one, over the fence it went, and then I went over to where the other ball looked like it had landed, and got over there and went, it was a pair of winter boots. So one of the kids, anyway, like 8 and 10-year-old boys. I grew up with boys. I have both an older brother and a younger brother, and I have younger cousins that are boys. Sometimes I just got no explanation for the things that they do. So turns out it was a ball and a pair of winter boots. I did throw them over and highlighted for one of the kids that the boots had landed back in their yard, because in my head I was like going, the mother probably tomorrow morning is going to go, and the boots are, and it would never, I'm 100% sure it would never occur to her that she would need to go over into the neighbor's yard to get them. Anyway, so I threw the ball and the boots back. They were out just after lunch. They have gone back in. So at this point, I'm not expecting to have too many neighbor noises today. Although we did discuss it, the stitching at the library, generally, I don't think you get to actually hear it. It's just me who's like, what's going on? Wait, what? Ooh, visual objects, distraction. All right, with that, let's get into some stitching. So we will start off as always with my Sunday evening stitch, my alphabet project that I'm currently working on, which is the Spring ABCs by Little House Needleworks. Making very happy with my progress on this one. My goal was to finish, I forgot to look again. My goal was to finish 1 letter a week, which means I would finish it mid-year. I'm ahead of schedule. I'm stitching this on a 32. I'm stitching this on a 28 count Star Sapphire Jobelan, using 2 strands of floss over 2 fabric threads. And this is where I got to. So what did I get done? So I finished off my tree and came down and did my bunnies, put in the heart and the grass down here, and got in the letter U. Now the letter V is technically this same Threadworx thread. But this finished off a length that I had going, and I just went, well, when I next come to stitch, I'll need to do V, and there are other letters that are on that same. So I was like, I was far enough. I'm ahead of schedule. We're doing really well on this. So yeah, very pleased with how this is coming along. Yes, I'm really glad I picked this one. It's working up. So I can do this. Hang on a second. I have all the sizes today. Put my tags back on. I was really just going to show, but starting to get very fond of my tall projects. So there you go. There's where we are. We're getting very close to the end. 5 letters left. So I'm over 80% of complete on this project. I think when I was looking in MarkupRxP, I was at like 81 point something. So it's coming along very well. So very pleased with how that is working. That'll get worked on tonight. All right. Then I couldn't help myself because I wanted to get my 1,000 stitches in. And so, you know, I did hit the 1,000 stitches and then kept going for a little bit. So I continued working on Jerusalem by Thea Gouverneur. Bring my gigantic scroll rod. Okay, so as you can see, just I'm using my version of Sarah the Stitchin' Mommy's typewriter method, which is starting at the top, left to right, and working down. Only I'm working down in a color completion style, largely, unless I have to do too much counting. So there was one color that there are some more stitches, but they're down about here, and at that time I didn't have this in, so I was just like, that's too far for me to count comfortably and make sure that I'm getting it done. So yeah, it's starting to fill out. I'm trying to be really good actually about making sure I get all of this green in before I hit the beginning of the next building. So, but there's some beige colors coming up there. So yes, continuing to make progress on this. So again, glad that it's out, glad that I'm working on it. I feel like I get decent, like I make decent progress every time I bring it out. So that certainly is a good feeling. Makes me want to bring it out more, but I have these other goals that I need to accomplish. So there is Jerusalem. And then, of course, I'm distracted by other things, which we'll talk about in a minute. So I worked on that for a bit and then went, really, you need to stop working on Jerusalem. You've hit your 1,000 stitches. You need to go back and finish your goals. Hello, you have goals for April and you are behind, which I am. I'm behind. So the next one that I worked on and said, no, really, you need to knuckle under, is my March Quaker by From the Heart Needleart by Wendy, because I didn't get it done in March, which means until this gets done, I can't work on April. And we're at April 16th. I need to get working on April. So I did a bunch of work, stayed up late, and then I will confess, after lunch, I spent a little more time in this so that I could actually come on here and go, it's finished. And I said, I was putting it on to this lovely minor board, and then I went, other than I haven't put my initials in. I'll put my initials in tonight as well. It'll be fine. It still will be a finish today, but I did have to spend a little bit of time this afternoon before I started recording this to make sure that it actually was a finish. So there is my March Quaker. I am stitched this on a 40 count white Verdal, which is a 40 count even weave. From Zweigart, it only comes in white, but there are a number of dyers, smaller dyers that do 40 count. Now, let's talk about what I did with my colors here. So I need to adjust. So the dark green, which is Classic Colorworks English Ivy, the medium green, which is sort of like the vines and these leaves, and the center of this is Classic Colorworks 4-leaf Clover. I'll put it in the note section. And then the lightest of the greens, which I really had a problem with, and it doesn't necessarily look dramatically different. So what you're seeing on camera is about what I would say it's actually fairly accurate for what it looks like in real life. So there are spots where you go like, yes, this is, you know, lighter than this. So this is the 4-leaf whatever. And for the lighter one, because I didn't like the Classic Colorworks version I had, I checked a number of overdyed greens that I had in stash. None of them were to my satisfaction. I ended up using the DMC equivalent from the pattern, which was DMC 368. I hauled out my DMC color card. I looked at all my options. None of them were what I was wanting. So I just went, oh, fine. DMC 368 it is. It's fine. So there is one of my finishes. It's okay. I know that there are a couple of you who have this in your stash and have left comments saying, you know, you're planning on putting them into your in your stitching plans at some point in the future. If you are planning on working on March, I don't necessarily love the called for colors. When I picked them, I was like going, oh, no, okay, this will work. If I were doing March over, I would choose my own greens. A dark, a medium, and light. It's hard to see the variegation for the two Classic Colorworks that I did use on camera. There's more variegation in the 4-leaf Clover than there is in the English Ivy, but again, it depends on what your particular skein is. So my recommendation, if you're planning on doing March, just make sure that you are choosing a dark, medium, and light green that you like. Really, that's all it is. I struggled with my greens on this one, which I think is why I ended up kitting it up with the original called for and went, you know, the ones that I've seen online look nice. It'll be fine for me. And like I say, 2 out of the 3 are not bad. I probably would have made this more emeraldish than, but like I say, I kind of looked at my stash and I didn't have anything, and anyway, so I just went ahead. So it's fine. It looks fine. I don't feel like I need to do it over again. If I were restitching this and starting it from scratch for some reason or another, I would probably choose different greens. It's fine though. This is fine. And it's complete now, which is the most important things. We have a finish. This is my second, I was gonna say this is my first finish for April. That is not correct. This is my second finish for April, which is good, because now I get to work on the April Quaker and get that finished before we hit the end of April. So we've got time, we've got lots of time, right? This is not gonna take me 2 weeks to stitch April, so that's great. And so we will be caught up, according to me, barring, you know, really unforeseen circumstances. We will be caught up before we hit the month of May. And then of course, we had the infamous stitching at the library. So I worked on my project. I was having a debate with myself getting ready to do this, and I just went into default mode and went, okay, we're going to keep working on this one. So there is my, this is Deb's Winter Biscornu, and I don't have the picture of it. This is from the Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher magazine, Winter 2021. This is the second time I'm stitching this, because the first time I stitched it and gave it away in a smalls exchange, and so now I'm stitching it for myself. So there I am stitching this on a 28 count White Opalescent Lugana, using the called for DMC fibers from that pattern. And what I got stitched is this light blue over here. Yeah, 3 hours at the library, and that is what I got stitched. And in fact, one of my friends who was there came over and said to me that I really needed to be more productive. She was teasing me. And I said, sorry, it's stitching at the library. Did you honestly think I was coming to the library to stitch? I'm coming to the library to talk. Talk about stitching and see what everybody's working on and have discussions about MarkupRxP and blame Cheryl for crocheting. And then they teased her about, you know, she should be really happy because now there's an entire segment on my YouTube channel that's named after Cheryl. And Verna brought lovely things for show and tell, which was awesome. She brought a whole bunch of finished Blackbird projects and a Hands Across the Sea project and a Jardin Privé. It was fantastic, I was thrilled that she brought it, because I was supposed to, in my head, I was bringing things for show and tell as well, and I completely forgot on Saturday. So I was going to take my needle roll bat and forgot it, and I forgot to bring the spring bell pull. So I need to make sure that next month in May that I bring those lovely items to Stitching at the Library for show and tell. So yeah. All right, let's talk about some stash acquisitions. This is not heavily intensive stash acquisition-y. One of them, if you've watched my channel for any length of time, you're probably just going to look at and have your own little chuckle and roll your eyes and yeah, all of that things, all of which are, you know, reasonable responses. I was at Winners. And I've gotten really bizarrely used to looking in the tea section at Winners. I spent so much time looking for that original tea tin for my Queen Elizabeth Memorial and Platinum Jubilee piece that it's now, I can't go into a Winners or Home Sense without making sure I go through the tea aisle. Which is funny because I don't drink tea. Anyway, I don't enjoy tea. I don't drink tea. I don't drink coffee. So the fact that I make sure that I see the tea section is somewhat humorous. So I was there and went through the tea section and looked at the tea section and went, all right, I'm going to get one more. I got one more. So this is the tea tin that has William and Catherine. This is an older version because it has them. So this is the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge tea tin. So this is, there was one when they got married in 2011, and I've seen it. Do I have anything specifically that I'm going to put on top of this? No, not yet. I'm sure I can come up with something. There was only one of these there, and I went, fine, I'm going to spend my $7 in my royalty tea tins. Anyway, I got it. Yes, so it's got a picture of the couple, and then Catherine individually and William on the other end. It has a little description about who they are and where they fit into the royal family. They only had one. I got it anyway. All right. The Winners is also, Winners is the Canadian version of TJ Maxx. And so right next door to the Winners that I was at is a Dollarama. So, I mean, you can't do one without going into the other one. And I laughed because the friend that I was shopping with that particular day it was quite funny because she had some very specific goals. Winners, you sort of go in and you all know you're just randomly going to look for things and hopefully meet at about the same time by the cashiers. We don't always buy things, but anyway, at the dollar store, she had some very specific items and she said, oh, okay, what are you looking for? And I went, what do you mean, what am I looking for? I'm going to go up and down all of the aisles. Sorry, it's the dollar store. You don't know what you're going to find. And so I, of course, found something and it came home and you're going to laugh at what it is and what my plans for it are. So I got this, now in the light that we're working with, I will take it out of the bag because it's reflecting terribly. It's this heavy rope. Now, the thing that drew me to this, again, so you aren't necessarily getting an accurate color on the screen. The reason why I was so excited about this one and why I spent my $1.50 is because it is navy. It is not black, it is navy. And so my friend looked at me and was like, what are you planning on doing with that? And I said, oh, well, I have some, you know, stitching projects, you know, like nautical, summer related. You know, like navy will work really well for that. Okay, you've seen exactly how many finishes I have completed myself on this channel. It's always good to have goals. It was $1.50 per package. And I say that because, you know, I did get more than one. So I got 2 navies, and I looked out of the multiple pegs of these things, they had a total of 2 packages of navy. So I took them both. I got 2 of the navy and I got a white one. So yes, I spent $4.50 on finishing for some as yet unstitched projects, but you don't it was really, the navy was a big deal for me, and I just went, well, there was a white one there, so I got that one too. All right, and those are my stash acquisitions for this week. Now, fortunately, I remembered to put a thing here on my table to remind me. I had this big thing that I was supposed to say last week, and you probably won't remember. I was like, oh, I forgot. And it's like, oh no, it's over here. And then I never talked about it again. Okay, so Stony Creek Spring Bell Pull. The one that I showed the finish of last week. And I know that there are some of you out there who have gone out and purchased that pattern and are planning on stitching that. So there is one big gigantic cautionary note that I want to say to you. So in the pattern, the color that is used for the letters that spell out spring is Weeks Dye Works Mulberry. And according to the pattern, it says that you need 2 skeins of it if you are stitching it on 28 count fabric over 2 threads. Now, it isn't over dyed, and again, I've seen some skeins of mulberry where it is not heavily over dyed. Mine was not heavily over dyed, but I do have, like, if I'm working with any over dyed fiber, I do stitch I cross all of my okay, that time it was a gigantic bird that landed in the yard. Everything seems to land in that one spot anyway. So I do cross all of my X's individually as I'm stitching them. If you have a not terribly heavily over dyed mulberry, you may not necessarily need to do that. But I thought I would show you exactly how much I have left of the 2 skeins. There, this will work. Whoops. So here is exactly how much I have left of the 2 skeins of Weeks Dye Works Mulberry from that project. That's it. That's all I have left. So I like to think of myself as being a relatively frugal stitcher, but I will say I was getting really worried as I was finishing off my G, because I was like there's not a lot left here. So I made sure that I did all of the G so that if I ran out while I was back stitching the words for G, it would probably be fine. But that is the total extent. And it's not one continuous length either. So, you know, it was awfully tight. Right? So 2 strands, none of the, neither, well, one of them's maybe a little more than 3 inches, but, you know, so I had, let's say 6 inches left over. So now that I've done this episode of Flosstube, this is just straight going into the garbage because this is going to do nothing for me. But I did keep it for you people because I was like, man, it was getting a little tense there. So if you are planning on stitching spring bell pull, and my recommendation to you is it's awfully tight with 2 if you are planning on crossing each X as you're stitching it. If you aren't crossing each X, you will have some extra. But it was awfully tight for me. So, cautionary note. Okay. With that, let's get to the new section, which is called Crocheting, because of Cheryl, the Happy Handcraft Studio. She's a Flosstuber who is multi-craftual. And, you know, she made me, or at least that's my story. So the title of this particular episode is I Have Finishes. So you've seen one of them. So I finished the March Quaker, which is great. So that's two episodes in a row that I have finished a cross-stitching project, which is positive. This is the week that I have my first crochet finish. Yep. Yeah. Uh-huh. Oh my goodness, I don't know who I've turned into, but I'm enjoying my end product. So, I finished my lapgan. Now, I will say it has turned into an oversized lapgan, and I am not necessarily unhappy with the oversized nature of this particular lapgan. As I was working on the borders, I was sitting inside because it was later in the evening, and I was watching something on television. So you know, you crochet as you normally do, sort of leaning back and you're crocheting along and, you know, watching something. I was like going, I had a moment while I was working on it out here in the sunroom where I was like, maybe this is maybe a little too big, but it's fine. But then as I was leaning back watching inside, I was like going, this is maybe actually an okay length for me. Anyway, so it is now complete. I have finished everything, including my border. So now this doesn't look dramatically exciting. So I did locate the pattern that had the 3 colored border. And I laughed. It was not in Dropbox. It was sitting on my computer with the name. It was filed under the name of the pattern, which has nothing, there's no word border or 3 color or anything in that. The name of the pattern is Ooh La La. Anyway, got in there, went, maybe I should just search on sort of the last things that I threw into my crochet folder, and there it was. Anywho. So it doesn't look dramatically exciting, but I did actually follow, there was a chunk of the pattern that I followed, so there are some various stitches that I've used as I worked my way out So I actually did the first row of the border that I did all around was actually using the variegated. I did a little bit of reading and they kind of went, it's not so bad, you know, because the variegated will hide a multitude of sins, particularly as you're going down the sides with these multicolors. And I did carry the multicolored thread up the sides because it was really only a couple of rows that I was doing. You know, a couple of rows of single crochet is what the stripes were in between the variegated yarn. So I did a single crochet border all the way around before I started working on my white, and then the aqua, and then the gray. And at that point, I was like going, we're good, we're fine. So there's my border. It is curling a little bit. I probably should block it. Am I gonna block it? No, I don't care enough because it's really just for me, and it's gonna sit here. Well, either in here or next door, and we'll use it anyway. So there you go. There is my first crochet project finished. Yeah. I don't know who I've become. Okay, so there's finish number 2 for this week. So I worked on that one and finished it up, which is a little unfortunate because, as I've said, I'm planning on blaming Cheryl for 3 crochet projects plus the temperature blanket next year. I'm already through 1. We're not good positioning for this. And then I forgot to bring the other one neatly. And then on my poncho that I'm working on, I did finish, although it'll be hard to tell, I did finish all of the right side. So this is actually all part of the back. And then, so I finished all of the stripes for the right side of the poncho. So now I just need to replicate this. So really from this navy down here on the left side. And then I need to do the weaving part to make it into a truly plaid poncho. But yeah, this one's coming along as well. Cheryl. And yes, at some point she's going to watch this video and she's just going to sit at home and smile and laugh at me. Yes. Go, isn't it nice that you're learning new skills? Yeah, anyway, Cheryl, whatever. Now, so I finished my lapgan. I'm making good progress on my poncho, and I mean, there's like, you should probably have more than one. So cross-stitching has certainly taken me out of the land of doing a monogamous project for the right reasons or the wrong reasons. So I, of course, decided I should start my next project, my next crochet project. So I started it. So there we are. So really, this is just a pattern. It turns, it's what did she call it? She's got, oh yeah, the size that's on the actual pattern says that it's a lovey, which is 18 by 18. Well, that isn't going to cut it for me, but the concept works for me. So I'm just going to do more rows, and so it will turn into something square, which is totally fine. And I will crochet until it gets to the size that I want it, using a dark teal, a white, and a gray. And so once you get past, so it's the same pattern for every row. So it's super easy. It is just a riff on a regular old granny square. So I'm just going to keep going. And I will just crochet until it's the size I want it to be, using just these 3 colors. There is a small border on this one, so I will get it to the size I want it to be and go, okay, now it's time to do the border. But yeah, this one, given that it's supposed to be a square, as you can tell, this one probably will need to be blocked at the end just to make me feel better about it being square-ish, but it's fine. I'm working on my third project. So if these two get finished in a hurry, like that, like I said, I was going to blame myself for the next projects till we hit the new year when I blamed Cheryl for the temperature blanket. Anyway, Cheryl. All right. So there you go. Announcements. I do not have the May Stitching at the Library booked yet, so once I get that booked, I will let you know. It's probably not going to be for a couple more weeks. May is interesting weekend wise. The weekend of May 13th, 14th, that's the Mother's Day long weekend here in Canada and in the US. The following weekend here in Canada, it is our May Victoria Day long weekend. So we'll, you know, I think I'm aiming for the 27th, so I'm going to have to wait until the 27th to see if I can get the library on that day. So we'll see how it goes. Check back later. If not, I may revert. Anyway, so check back. As always, if you don't have time to watch all of the videos and you're wanting to know when the next Stitching at the Library is here in Calgary at the Signal Hill Library, you can just check the notes section and just have a quick look and go, has she put anything at the bottom? When I have it booked, I always put it into the notes section. Not surprisingly, it's towards the end of the notes, but it is always in the notes section once I get the library booked. All right. The other announcement, of course, is the Ujamma Grandma's Fabric and Yarn Sale that is coming up on the first weekend in May. I have my ticket. I did remember to go and check in Eventbrite this week before I got on here to see how many tickets were left for the Friday. On the Friday, they have timed entry tickets. The entry tickets are $2 for whether you're coming on the Friday, the Saturday, or the Sunday. Saturday and Sunday, you just need to show up and pay the $2 to get in. Friday, they have a timed entry. I have my ticket for that. They do still have tickets for Friday available. They have a variety of times. They are all in the afternoon, so 1 p.m. or later, but there still are tickets for the time slots in the afternoon. If you are looking for a Friday time slot, those are still available on Eventbrite for $2. And yes, I'm planning on going. And somebody said, wait a minute, are you going to this to look for yarn? And I was like, well, yarn and some finishing fabrics. So I have a couple of things that I'm planning on looking for, and you just never know what you're going to find there. Because we do have Cheryl, who is part of the volunteer team with Ujamma Grandmas. She did let us know that if you're into beading and jewelry making, they got quite a collection, a rather large donation of beading and jewelry making items. So so although it's called the Fabric and Yarn Sale, there's more than fabric and yarn. So there's fabric and yarn and home goods and hard goods. So again, depending on what people bring, there are sometimes people donate sewing machines and looms, but you know, every year is different. It just depends on what the donations are that year. The big donation weekend is coming up on the weekend of April the 29th. So that's when they'll really find out what they've got. There are cross-stitching things. There will be cross-stitching patterns and kits and some fabric. So who knows? Who knows what I'm going to come home with? I have no idea what I'm going to come home with. But it was funny, you know, again, Stitching at the Library talking to Cheryl, because one of the things I said to Cheryl was like, I'm really looking for some navy velvet so that I can finish off those Queen Elizabeth pillows so I can put them in my tea tins and put them out on display. And it's her fault for that as well, because she used a velvet to finish her Queen Elizabeth pillow. So, you know, again, it's Cheryl's fault. Anyway, and she said to me, well, she got her velvet at the Fabric and Yarn sale. And they were fabric samples from somewhere, like from a sample book. That anyway, she's like, so you just never know. And so yes, I'm planning on going and looking for. I am planning on going and looking for fabrics for some soft finishes. Don't get excited. I don't know when I'm actually going to execute the plan, but you know, it's harder to execute if you don't have the stuff to, you know, execute the thing with, right? So I will be looking for some fabric. I am planning on going and checking out what they've got for yarn. You know, you just never, you never know what you're going to find. And if it turns into it's all sock weight yarn, I'm probably not going to get anything, which is totally fine. I wouldn't have any issues with that. You know, because we were talking about it at Stitching at the Library. Like if you're planning on knitting or crocheting an Afghan that is all one color, you might not be successful at the Fabric and Yarn sale, because you can't necessarily say, oh, I'm going to go in here and find 10 balls of, you know, the same color. Except you go like, well, but some years you might, because somebody bought the 10 balls and went, I'm never going to make this Afghan, and so they donated it all. So you might or you might not. Like again, yarn is anybody's guess, but yes, I know. Who am I? This is Cheryl's fault. I'm going to the Fabric and Yarn sale and I'm looking for fabrics and I'm looking for yarn. And I said to Cheryl, I was like, I'm probably also looking for a ball winder, you know, so like the light aqua from Lapgan project, this color, because you know it's not the same as, you know, the dark teal that I'm working with. The grays are the same, the whites are the same, but you know, anyway, that light aqua, like the ball is limp, to say the least. And yes, I sat here and went, well, now I need a ball winder so I can kick that thing up and like put it into the shelf in the craft room in the basement. Like, I mean, I can't leave it like this. Now I need a tool. Anyway, so I'm also going to the Fabric and Yarn sale to see if I can find a ball winder. Anyway, I haven't found one at the thrift store. I know, who am I? Who am I? Who is this person? And I did very clearly say to them, I am not turning into a quilter, period. We are not going down that. And I'm not doing knitting. I've already been sucked into the yarn land with the crochet because it's Cheryl's fault. Anyway, but yes. So this week, reasonably productive week. 2 finishes in 1 week. Not 2 cross-stitch finishes. That would have been good, but the oversized Lapgan is complete and the March Quaker is complete. So now I get to start working on April. So yes, the plans for this week are to, clearly I will work on my ABC. I still have not started kitting up my next ABC one. I really do need to get my act together because, you know, I have 5 letters left, so I need to get my act together. I need to get that thing kitted up. Work on the April Quaker, hopefully like a mad thing. I had a little bit of an issue this week because I was really trying to say you need to get March Quaker done so that you can get working on April Quaker. So on the 11th, in case any of you were wondering why didn't I show my project for the 11th, so I was supposed to be working on Remember 911 by Just Nan, which I did not do on the 11th. So I'm moving that into this week because I still need to make progress on it every month. I'm feeling better now that March Quaker is complete. So probably on Monday, I will sit down and I will work on my Remember 911 and get my April stitching on that complete. Not on its targeted date, but it's fine. Clearly the plans for April are adjusting somewhat. So yes, that start April Quaker, see how the rest of the week goes. So I'm behind schedule for what my overall April plans are. It's fine. It's fine. You know what happens at the end of the month if I don't reach all of my April goals? Nothing. It's fine. It's fine. It's totally fine. You know, I'm happy with what I'm getting accomplished in April. Jerusalem's back out. It's making progress. The Lent project got done. I've got some finishes. So we're clearly going to have more finishes in April than we had in March, which is positive. Yes, so come back next week and see what else happens at the tail end, towards the back end of next week, because I have plans for next weekend. So it'll be interesting to see what happens by the time I see you on Sunday. Yes, I'm just going to leave that one there. So there you go. That's all I have for you this week. The forecast for this week is lovely and sunny and warm. So it's going to be great. Love the sunroom when it's sunny and warm. Like I said, coming in at any point, you know. Yeah, anyway. It's turning into sunroom season. That always makes me happy. But with that, let's wrap this up so I can get this doing its thing, uploading and processing and all that kind of stuff. So I hope everybody's had a really good week. Oh, no, we've got time. I'll talk about it next week because I also don't have my second device here to show it. I think I've come in for a decision on what I'm going to do for the coronation sal. So we'll talk about that next week. It's off of Etsy. I think I've made my decision. So there we go. We'll talk about that next week. So there you go. I hope you have a great week. As always, thinking of the people of the Ukraine, thinking as always of the people in a number of situations that have happened both globally and locally. So as always, there's a number of there's a number of people to be thinking about as always, but always thinking of the people of the Ukraine. So I hope you are staying safe. Safety first, safety first, safety first. I hope you're staying healthy, and I hope you're finding some time to do some stitching, sometimes crocheting or knitting or quilting or crafting of some kind. And it's bringing you a break, mental health, stress relief, a diversion, whatever you need it to be, a creative outlet. So I hope you're finding some time to do something creative. And as always, love having the conversation in the comments section down below. If you've got comments, questions, topics you'd like me to talk about, love to have that conversation through the comment section down below. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.